absolutely believe that care must be free at the point of delivery. This ensures more democratic accountability over the CCG by having councillors on the joint board. It gives us more democratic scrutiny through the Scrutiny Committee. The pool includes the Better Care Fund, which includes funding for 225 social workers. It covers complex care packages for adults, children and young people, where previously, and as a ward manager in the NHS, I know that sometimes it used to take weeks for health and social care to argue about who was going to pay how much of the money, whether it was continuing health care funding or social funding. One pot now allows whatever care is needed to be agreed quickly and efficiently and to get people where they need to be. One of the other concerns that had come up was the £19 million shortfall in the CCG's contract with Wirral Hospital Trust, and that is absolutely not included in anything that we are involved with, and it has no impact on this pool. Can I welcome the very sensible motion from Councillor Gilchrist that says we should not delay signing any longer. I welcome the commitment to open and transparent working arrangements, as in his motion, with the commissioners, and I look forward to working more closely with scrutiny to ensure that a meaningful dialogue is established and how we're going to do that, and to look at robust governance arrangements. I also look forward to scrutiny looking at the quality of services and the differences that it actually makes for people. And I would urge all councillors to support Councillor Gilchrist's motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I now invite Councillor Phil Gilchrist to formally move and Councillor Chris Carragher to formally second the motion as set out on page 1 of the agenda supplement.
Thank you, Mr.
This is formal.
Formally move at this stage. I second it, Mr. Mayor.
So, Councillor Phil Gilchrist, you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recognise there was a comment from a member who was concerned that the motion had been submitted, but it struck me when I was looking at this issue after the Scrutiny Committee that lasted for several hours, that there needs to be a way forward for the Council. The issue arose as the Joint Strategic Commissioning Board was in its early stages from last May. There was a leaders' report, a decision to the Council about setting the structure in motion, and a report in October when it formally took up its place and started doing detailed work. At the Scrutiny Committee, we were at great pains to explore what accountable care organisations meant and whether there were strange strings attached or whether we were looking at a model specifically developed here in Wirral. Dr. Wells was at great pains to assure us that they had developed the working arrangements to a particular point. We're not going to go beyond that point without considerable further discussion. We heard evidence from Councillor Jones based on her commitment to the NHS over 40 years of work, which expressed members who were anxious about the situation we were entering into. As a long-serving member, I remember there was joint financing in the 70s and 80s under various schemes. I also remember, or I think, that if we did not have members taking a full part in the organisation, then the health service would be going its particular way, consulting us, but getting on with the work we need to be doing. So it struck me that there have to be ways in which this council can keep abreast of what's going on with the Better Care Fund, keep abreast of what's happening on the Health and Wellbeing Board, and also ensure that the cabinet members involved, which there are 3, and the main deputies involved, but there are 3 Wirral members who have 1 vote, and members are anxious that the rather large membership of the committee of the CCG might in some way outweigh council members, but we were assured by Dr. Wells that that body would cast a vote in the same way that Wirral as a council passed a vote. And having watched the proceedings on the webcasting, I observed that Councillor Jones asked that proposal agreed by Wirral members, and Dr. Wells asked their members if the proposal was agreed by them. So it's not a question of, in my view, anyone getting one over on any other party to this. However, I happen to be a member of the Health and Wellbeing Board, I've attended, I believe, 13 of the past 14 meetings over the last 2.5 years. There does not appear to be a great link between its work and what goes on. Much flow of information. Similarly, not a great flow of information from the Joint Strategic Board. So what I did at the committee, the Scrutiny Committee, in seconding wording that had been discussed amongst the spokespersons, was look for ways of improving communication, and the Chair has outlined that tonight. The motion before Council underlines the need for that communication. It isn't specific about how it should be done, but having said that that's what we want to know, we genuinely expect those most closely involved to keep members informed.
Thank you. Now, open to debate. Are there any speakers? Yes, Councillor Cleary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to confess I'm not as sanguine as the Cabinet Member or Councillor Gilchrist about what we are jumping into here. Members might remember that 2 months ago at our last meeting, along with Councillor Sullivan, I warned Council that creating an accountable care organisation in Wirral was opening the door to privatisation of health services in Wirral. Now, if Council, as I believe, and I believe many Labour councillors wanted to, had accepted our advice at that meeting, we could have paused, avoided the call-in, and spent the past 2 months addressing the serious flaws in these arrangements. Instead, as the Liberal Democrat amendment refers, we are told time is short and we need to press on regardless of the long-term implications. Now, I don't believe that that's good enough for the people that we represent. And there was ample evidence in the call-in debate to support my concern. In particular, Yvonne Nolan's evidence was extremely clear that this model paves the way for privatisation, that joint working between council, social care and the NHS was entirely possible without pooled funding, and that given these concerns and the financial risks to the council, she would have advised caution. And to me that's a polite way of saying that we are making a big mistake here. Now another witness, Dr. Derek Timmins, went further, saying that signing of this agreement will lead to increasing privatisation of our NHS and more cuts in services. So these are the advice of serious health professionals with many decades of experience within the industry. So this all fits into the wider agenda of privatisation by stealth, creating single organisations with pooled budgets and weak democratic oversight that is ripe for private interests to colonise. So in the circumstances, Mr. Mayor, and given the limited powers of Council to act tonight, the only responsible course of action, I believe, is to reject the amendment, refer the entire decision back to the Cabinet, and urge them in the strongest possible terms to think again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like many members in this council chamber and clearly many residents of Birkenhead and Tranmere, we listen intently to what Councillor Cleary says. It's refreshing to have a Green Party councillor in the council to listen to, and he was doing so well just up until that point where he said that we need to listen to Yvonne Nolan telling us about financial risks. Yvonne Nolan cost this council millions and millions of pounds in lost revenue. To this day we are still missing through her campaign of non-payment when she was leader last time, and I hope it stays the last time and not again. I never thought, Mr. Mayor, I would say to this council, I'll be sorry to see Councillor Davis go. Be careful what you wish for. Mr. Mayor, the one concern I have in the Liberal Democrat motion is the first item I, where it says the need to secure open and transparent working arrangements with the Commissioners of Local Health and Related Services. Mr. Mayor, the report that was commissioned by this authority and the NHS more than 12 months ago by PricewaterhouseCoopers, which cost the taxpayer £75,000, was first brought to a meeting of the Health and Wellbeing Board more than 12 months ago. That report was exempt. I and others asked for it to be the exemption to be lifted, and we subsequently asked for, via the Freedom of Information Act, for that report to be made public, because that report listed the risks to both the authority and the NHS of this joint commissioning. So my concern is not what happened 12 months ago, but my concern is that in the coming 12 months and years, should this item pass, that we see no more of that kind of secrecy, and we see no more of the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers being brought in, being paid money for old rope, if I can say that without being sued. £75,000 of taxpayers' money that could have been used in a myriad of other ways, paying for a report telling us what the risks were into the NHS and the council working together. It took months for that report to be published. That is totally unacceptable. That fueled some of the concerns from the protesters and the campaigners against this. We have to be more savvy. If we want to get people on board, we have to be open and transparent, not only in the recommendation, but also in the way we behave. So the Commission reports should be published so the public can see them, as well as the Scrutiny Committee.
Councillor Tony Norbury.
As a member of the Adult Care Scrutiny Committee, and this is scrutiny that we're doing tonight, you've got to take things from different perspectives. And I've listened to the calling, and I agree with what Ian's saying. I was asking for the Pricewaterhouse documents for absolutely months, and that has been denied to us. And it was that Pricewaterhouse document, as Ian rightly says, that alerted us to it being a council care system and the financial risks to this council. I also took into consideration the advice from Yvonne Nolan, and I really do look forward to Yvonne Nolan becoming a member of the Labour Party and the Labour Council in Wirral. That's what I'm saying. I look forward to her becoming a councillor, and I hope the members of the Labour Party, and certainly the members of the Labour Party who stood up before applauding Maureen McLaughlin, will get on the streets and help Yvonne be elected. Anyway, going back to the substantial point. The reason why this was called in is because the accountability as a council, and people are saying, and Phil Gilchrist is saying about these arrangements on the joint board regarding Wirral having one vote and the CCG having the other vote. It still hasn't been made clear to me, and I'd love the Cabinet member to make it clear to me what happens when it's one vote all, who gets the deciding vote, and where is the accountability for elected members to veto a decision that can be made by the CCG. We've all seen the CCG in action over the urgent care consultation, where they walked away from our committee, our scrutiny committee, asking them to reconsider the consultation and put another proposal up, which would include keeping our urgent care centres, our walk-in centres, open. So I've got grave concerns about signing this Section 75. I'm not opposed to signing the Section 75 that gives us accountable, democratic accountability and a veto in the decision-making process. I'm not opposed to signing the Section 75, which moves us forward and gives us better care in the future for the people of Wirral, both social care and health care. But I am opposed to signing the Section 75, this Section 75, that our candidates are recommending that we actually sign. This Section 75 puts us at risk, financial risk as a council, and gives us no accountability. Councillor accountability, elected accountability on where our money goes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read the documents, I've listened to the Cabinet member when she came to scrutiny, and to Dr. Sue Wells and so on. And they told us that the bits that some members have identified as being risky to do with the CCG's contract with the hospital were not part of this agreement. Therefore, this is not posing a risk to the council. It's not about privatising anything, it's about the NHS working with us. We're not a private body, I do believe we're a council. The NHS is not a private body, it's our NHS. They're working together to deliver good services for the people of Wirral, and I'm in favour of it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Joe Bird.
Thank you. Yvonne Nolan's been mentioned a few times tonight, and she's actually been personally attacked. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yvonne Nolan's been mentioned a few times tonight. She's been personally attacked by two councillors here, and she's at this time a member of the public, and I think that's very poor behaviour on your part. It shows a weakness of our care to have the right of reply. The arguments have not been addressed. I'm not an expert in adult care, I'm from a business background, but I'm concerned that the Scrutiny Committee has several concerns, and those concerns have not been addressed by this amendment, which I will be voting against. From my business background, this looks like what's called a merger, often euphemistically called a merger. It looks like actually a takeover by Wirral CCG, which is actually in legal direction, in other words, special measures, and taking over the council's budget, whereas the council still has to retain responsibility for delivering adult social care without having control of the budget to do so. That's a very dangerous situation for patients and the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was somewhat disappointed, but not really very surprised at the Scrutiny Committee, where their focus was more on process than where it should have been, which was the patient. Patients should be at the heart of everything that we do. By using the Better Care Fund to integrate health and social care, we can achieve better outcomes for our patients, ensuring that they're in the right place at the right time and not taking up an acute bed inappropriately. Integrated care can prevent people going into hospital and ensure that inpatients are discharged in a timely manner to a place that best suits their needs. Nobody should stay in hospital longer than is necessary, yet current data shows that in Wirral, the mean length of stay for an emergency admission is 4.6 days. An emergency admission with a primary diagnosis of dementia has a mean length of stay of 17 days. And the longer a patient stays in hospital, the more likely they are to pick up an infection or have a fall. Only last week, a GP told me of one of his patients whose discharge was delayed. She died in a hospital-acquired pneumonia. Integrated care and pooling of budgets is nothing new. The King's Fund evaluated the Torbay model back in 2011, a model Sefton sought to emulate. And this is that model. I suggest you Google it and read up about this model. It's a fantastic film. If Section 75 agreement between the CCG and the Council isn't perfect, then every effort must be made to improve it by establishing a meaningful dialogue and appropriate mechanisms. But in the meantime, we should be caring for our patients, freeing up acute beds for those who need them, improving patient flow, and getting ambulances back on the road rather than having them act as an annex to the ED.
Councillor Adrian Jones. Councillor, would you turn your light up, please? Councillor Adrian Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to applaud Councillor for Jo Bird on her first address to this chamber. I'm sure she has a very memorable future ahead. I was also glad to hear Councillor Ian Lewis. I'm always delighted when Councillor Lewis seems to be just a little bit out of touch with the thrust of the Conservative Party. So I applaud him for that, and long may it continue. In respect, of course, of privatisation. Let's not forget the 2006 Act. It was a Labour Government's Act, for those who were unaware of that or have forgotten it. I, for one, it's no secret, in my own group, it's no secret, I've often in the past been rather unpopular for frequently criticising that Labour government for straying rather too far away from our party's socialist purpose. However, that Labour legislation was intended to bring health provision from disparate sources closer together precisely to strengthen the NHS as a socialist measure. I quite understand, and I think we all can, that a malign government could still warp Labour's intentions. So in my opinion, it's entirely legitimate to scrutinise the future relevance of going on to a further stage of the Section 75 process. That's a proper function of scrutiny. the present call to abandon the current funding pool and thereby to dissemble the funding arrangements already in place may seem like heroic existence, but the call to jump ship at this stage of the Section 75 controversy seems to be having quite different effect of, however unintentionally, deflecting a great deal of attention from the far greater attack on the National Health Service that has been coming for some time from the rapid privatisation of the GP practices that's already happened with no similar outcry, and of course the actual private occupation of a ward in one of our local hospitals in our park with no similar outcry. I think our priorities ought to be a little bit nearer to what is really in fact happening by way of privatisation already. These are not chimeric threats that we face, they're real and they are happening now. It's very easy to wear the glitzy badge of heroic symbolism and demand ditching the tail end of the current Section 75 funding pool, but would the same view be taken, as has been expressed by some, of those, by those of our most vulnerable people who are actually receiving the benefits of that pooling, and would the same view be taken by the hundreds of employees whose jobs depend on that funding, who are all trade unionists as well, let me remind those who want to ditch it. I fully support the demand to scrutinise the future of Section 75 arrangements, but let's get real. The call seems to be to abandon ship. It seems to be presented as a left tactic. Well, let me say that abandoning ship in dry dock head first when there's a concrete fall below you is a damn silly tactic.
Councillor Jeff Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I wasn't intending to speak on this, but I have to say, as someone who has a lot of personal experience around this year, I think the idea and how things operated previously, I have to say that by pooling budgets, by instead of this, is it social care, is it health care, and who's going to pay, and the arguments I have seen around that, if it's going to integrate care, so an elderly person or someone has to leave hospital from acute care, doesn't fall through the cracks and therefore receive incredibly poor care, and are instead going to be looked after and have their needs properly assessed and properly used and properly resolved. If we're going to get to a situation where we actually, for the first time, invite patients and those people in these circumstances to tell their story once, and the family to be able to tell their story once, instead of having to continually contact different people from different services and tell the story over and over again, then I think that has to be a positive move forward. If it's in fact going to go further and introduce, because of access to better care fund, if we're now going to be able to help a range of people that previously would have had to pay for that care, and we're now going to give those people and their families access to better care fund, then frankly, the argument about whether 3 people have one vote or 5 people have a different vote, and to have that argument, well, there is the opportunity to enhance these services for some of those people leaving hospital and making all the other points that have been made possible, I think would be a disgrace for this council to spend time doing that when we could actually be taking care of our residents in some of the most difficult circumstances they can face. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Ron Abbey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, like Jeff Green, wasn't going to speak, but I think I should, as somebody that's experienced our National Health Service over the last 6 months, and in more so in the last few weeks, I've seen the NHS in crisis, and I mean, I'm telling you, in crisis. 5-hour wait for ambulances, 3-hour wait for ambulances. That's the norm now for an ambulance wait. And people are dying out there because ambulances can't get to them. Because what happens is, you arrive at our park, you meet a nurse that takes your details, and then you queue up in a corridor, or number of corridors as there actually happens to be. We were in 4 corridors, and the length of the corridors was a bit longer than this room. And we queued up, waiting to be seen. Eventually, when you get seen, you're then pinpointed to a ward if you're lucky. The problem is that what's going on now is we've got ambulancemen sitting around, waiting around 3 hours, 4 hours before they can hand their patients over. So that's another ambulance house that's stuck around the park. The staff do a magnificent job, both the nurses and the medical staff and the auxiliary people do a magnificent job under difficult circumstances. Reality is, and I was told, this is fact, not made up, 19 beds were blocked on the night that I went in on the Friday night. 19 beds were blocked by people who couldn't be put into the community, either into a nursing home or into care packages so they could go home. 19 beds. And they were shuffling people around, discharging people at 11 o'clock at night to try and free beds up, or assessing people. If you weren't near death's door, you went home, and you come in tomorrow with even worse. And that's what was going on within our National Health Service. And I think to hold this particular part of Section 71 that is about releasing funding to allow people who need the desperate care in the community or in a nursing home, that is a crime that this council should not commit. We should be signing this. I've got a problem about questioning every Section 75 that comes forward to this council. We should do that. We should hold the NHS to account on what it does with our money, but there's a better way of doing it than actually bombarding people with emails, bombarding the local authority, bombarding National Health, saying, don't do this. What's the alternative we don't do? More beds will be stuck, more people will get the care that they need, more people will die. That's the reality of the world we're living in at the moment. And I'm going to finish off one final thing. And it's responsible of this government, it's their fault fundamentally for underfunding the National Health Service.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly indeed, I'm interested in the exchanges that I'm hearing. I haven't had the opportunity to review the webcast of the initial meeting. But I'm struck that a number of questions potentially have been asked from the floor. Councillor Norby in particular raised a point about, if I may summarise him, dispute. Well, I think that the question that interests me was the one about dispute resolution. I think that was your point, that one vote goes one way, one vote goes the other way. Dispute resolution we can call it. And I do disagree with what Jeff Green has said, that we shouldn't bother our little heads about the detail of these things. This is an important question. Whilst the answer may not sway Councillor Norby's vote once it becomes clear, if I may inquire, how are we going to get to the bottom of the questions that have been posed from the floor of the council? Clearly, if this was a scrutiny committee, then my members referred to the council being in its scrutiny mode. In the scrutiny committee, it would pause, and an answer would be forthcoming from either the cabinet member, the leader, or an officer. And I would be interested to know for those questions that have been posed, the one by Councillor Norby, what process we intend to invoke, Mr. Mayor, to ensure that we receive the answer to, in particular, I think, this question of dispute resolution.
It's easy. Use common sense.
Councillor Mike Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hate saying this, but I wasn't going to speak tonight either. But I'd like to, particularly the Tories, I hope you're all listening here. The problem with the NHS is it's grossly underfunded, grossly and inadequately underfunded. And we've got a constitutional crisis not in this council, but in this country. Democracy's failing us at the moment. We've got a government in power who can't govern. We've got a Prime Minister who can't lead a cabinet, never mind the country. And it's serious, Mr. Mayor. And the issue tonight is complex. On the one hand, we're talking about the good of the people on the Wirral, as opposed to what we should have one vote here and one vote there. What we're here tonight to discuss is for the betterment of the people of the Wirral. We mustn't forget that it was a Labour government who introduced privatisation into the NHS, and we carry that badge with dishonour, Mr. Mayor. But it's difficult, this one tonight. It really is difficult to vote one way or the other. But when we do vote, we've got to have the best interests for the people of the Wirral and their best interests. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Chris Blakely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Running the risk of repeating what everybody else has said, I'm no expert on adult social care, and I wasn't going to speak tonight. But I'm going to speak tonight about my experience. Many members will know that over the last 3 years I've had some serious health issues. I've been in and out of hospital a few times. I've had surgery a couple of times. And it's due to being able to have that package, to be able to come home, to be able to get out of hospital as quick as you can, that spurs you on. I went for my second operation, I was told I'd be in for 14 days. The doctors released me after 8 days, saying as long as I had a care package at home, that I could be looked after. That freed up a bed for somebody else 6 days earlier than they thought it would. And I would hate this council to sit back and do nothing, vote down this Section 75 and say to people, you're going to be staying in the hospital longer than you need to. That is not acceptable. We need to get people out. We can't have people blocking beds. Councillor Abbey is not here at the moment, but I hear what he said. And you know, we have to accept that there are limits at the moment on what the NHS can deliver. There are limits on funding. And you know, it's a Conservative government in at the moment, and people can have a pop with Conservative government. But the NHS has been creaking for years now. It's been creaking under government at the wall for it. We are really good at what we do now. Medical science, we can keep people alive longer. We can treat them better. We can keep them, you know, into their old age. But to do that, there's got to be a mixture of healthcare and home care. And, you know, I'm not expert on Section 75s. I've heard what everybody said. I did watch the live streaming, including the 35 minutes adjournment. And I think the arguments made by you, Chris, and by I forgot his first name now, Hodkinson, the director, were powerful, absolutely powerful, and how that didn't generate the support of the committee in order to say, go on, yeah, we've heard what you said, we have got concerns, we'll keep scrutinising this as we go along, we'll carry on doing it. But I would say to council, please don't stand here, sit here tonight and vote down something when those people out there, like I have for the last 3 years, need our help. Let's support this wholeheartedly and move forward. And before I finish, Mr. Mayor, I should have said at the start, put my congratulations on to Councillor Baird for her maiden speech. Clearly she has a lot to learn, but it was a good start.
Councillor Phil Davis.
Yeah, I would like to start by congratulating Jo Baird on her maiden speech, but I just wanted to I don't want to repeat what colleagues have said. I will be supporting the Liberal Democrat motion moved by Phil Gilchrist. I mean, I came into politics genuinely to improve the quality of life of the residents of Wirral that we represent, and I think there's a lot of either confusion or misinformation that's been put about around this debate. What we're being asked to do tonight is a Section 75 agreement for a very limited number of services. It's not the whole of the NHS, it's not the big hospital contracts, It's complex care, as Chris has said, it's complex care packages that people, vulnerable people particularly, rely on literally for a decent quality of life. And I would urge Council to vote for this motion because we need to be able to make sure that these care packages can continue to be delivered. And also, we need to ensure that the 225 social work staff who deliver these care packages will keep their jobs. And you know, I came into politics to improve services and to make sure that public service jobs were protected. If we don't sign the Section 75 agreement, Mr. Mayor, I didn't interrupt you, Tony. I fear that it puts at risk the Better Care funding, which is 53 million that's coming into Wirral. And I fear it will affect those care packages and those jobs. And I think we would be guilty of dereliction of duty if we did not support this resolution. So I will be supporting the motion.
Councillor Sharon Jones.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm responsible for talking tonight. As a nurse who's worked for the NHS for 31 years, I'm newly elected to council in May. I am a member of the Adult Health Scrutiny Committee, and so Section 75 was completely new to me. I work for NHS Blood and Transplants at the moment, but a long time ago in my career, about 12, 15 years ago, I actually worked as a nurse in the Royal Hospital looking at bed blockers or delayed discharges. Things have improved drastically since then in terms of care package being available in the community. What really concerned me about this Section 75 was that there is quite a lot of literature out there that gives us the indication that potentially it's some way going to privatise the NHS. I've done my own private scrutiny with regards to looking to see what other councils are doing across the country, and from what I can tell, all other councils are actually joining up on pooling budgets. Labour Party policy is that we integrate with the NHS and social care budgets in the long term. How we do that, I think sometimes there is some scepticism over that. But as a nurse, as a human being, and as someone who has recently lost both my mum and dad and had NHS and care package services in place, for both of them, I really don't want to remove anything for the people of the Wirral. I have my care package in place for my dad, and I truly believe that people on the Wirral deserve the same. So I think we do need to scrutinise what goes on in the future, definitely. And I think that we need to be very, very careful as a scrutiny committee. I also welcome what was said earlier in the House about children being brought into the whole wider picture with regards to this, because it's not just adult care that potentially is at risk here, it is children's care as well. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
If there are no further speakers, I'll invite now Councillor Chris Carabia to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I was going to speak, except I'm I've listened with great interest with what everybody said on this issue, because we have a massive issue. And I actually agree with most of the things that everybody said. Looking at the motion here that we put in front of us, if you read it carefully, it answers all the questions that everybody's asked. It's not a detrimental thing. But I have got some concerns which aren't for this amendment. It's the fact that we should sign this Section 75 for all the reasons that have been stated. But there are some concerns for me that things like our accounting systems are different from the CCGs, And all these things, there's other things that need to be dealt with, and they need to be dealt with quite quickly. I've asked some questions of the CCG since the last and one of the things is commissioning, because when if they pool and join the money together, who's going to commission who, and who's going to spend what money? Because it's all going to be out of one pot, and at the moment the CCG commissions certain people, NHS commissions certain people, and it's all costable. So I don't understand how that works. So that's one area I'd like to explore. Yes, the children do need to have a say in this, as I've said repeatedly. So I urge you all to listen to what's been said, take it all in, reread this before you make your judgments and your vote, because what it states here is not what some people think. I'd also like to congratulate Joe and Sharon for their maiden speeches.
So we now move to the vote on the Liberal Democrat motion. The electronic voting system. Card vote has been called. Please listen to your names. And also remember to... Yes, Councillor Gilchrist.
Can I confirm whether I have a right to reply or not?
I beg your pardon, Councillor Gilchrist. You should, of course. Councillor Gilchrist.
Thank you, Mr. The issue of sanguine was raised by Councillor Cleary. There is an issue of independence of the Health and Wellbeing Board. I want to make sure we look at that in future. A number of members who've got family members who are unwell, who have not been well themselves, have made speeches which have given us a clear view of the purpose of the motion before us. I'm very grateful for that. I'd like to thank Councillor Bird and Councillor Sharon Jones for their maiden speeches. Councillor Green made the point about care flowing, as did Councillor Pilgrim. Councillor Adrian Jones raised the fundamental issue. We're working in a system that currently works. If from the Nine government came along, wanted to do things to it, then we really will go to the barricades. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gilchrist. So now we do come to the vote on the Liberal Democrat motion. I think so. Thank you. Card vote has been called. We have to open the electronic voting system as well. Please listen to your names and remember to press the relevant button when your name is called.
Thank you, members. Councillor Abbey. Councillor Berry. Councillor Bird. Councillor Blakely. Councillor Brain. Councillor Brighton. Councillor Cannon. Councillor Carubia. Councillor Cleary. Councillor Clements. Councillor Cottier. Councillor Cox. Councillor Angela Davies. Councillor George Davies. Councillor Phil Davies. Councillor Bill Davies. Councillor Doughty. Councillor Elderton. Councillor Ellis. Councillor Fouts. Councillor Frost. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gilchrist. Councillor Green. Councillor Hackett. Councillor Gray. Councillor Hayes. Councillor Hodson. Councillor Adrian Jones. Councillor Chris Jones. Councillor Sharon Jones. Councillor Tony Jones. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kenny. Councillor Leach.